Hello. Have you ever tracked your time? What do you think about time? How do you use time? Do you run out of time? Do you always say that you are late? Are you early bird? I don't know about how your relationship is with time, but that's what we're going to talk about today. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Angela Durant. I am the founder of the Visible Club, which is to help self employed and solopreneurs raise their profile without hustle or hassle. And my own background is for 12 years as a voice coach, working with speakers and singers to help them enhance their own ability to speak confidently, to communicate the value, and to really express their uniqueness. And I love doing that work. And through the work of the Visible Club and through other areas of work that I do right now, it's just amazing to see how people become more of who they really are when we actually move some other stuff out of the way and get really deep down into expressing who we are through our work and in the world. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight of what we do in the Visible Club. So each month we have a new theme, and this month is actually time management versus energy. We also have a guest expert coming as well, but it got me thinking about time in lots of different ways. So I had a little look in our Visible Club as to who was kind of posting, what they were sharing, etc. And we had people sharing their wins, we had people sharing their insights, we had our member of the week, and also when I look at it, look behind the scenes, it's kind of like you can see how people are spending their time as to what their results are having, and how we're sort of whether we're getting stuck or not. So give you a little bit of a kind of background. We had people who were speaking in front of their most happy place right now. They were, one of our members was speaking in front of a group of sort of learners and absolutely in her element. Somebody else was sharing their wins around how, by thinking about all of the different aspects of their business and by kind of showing up almost like having a meeting with themselves, like they're their own CEO and their own every department, because they don't have a big team, so they have to be every department. That is enabling them to think about, well, how am I using my time? How am I showing up? So let's have a couple of questions here that will just help you to manage and look at your time. So I don't want to give you 5 tips on time management because you won't do them at all. So let's just help you look at the value of your time versus what you find important to you. And I think that's where we can actually start to truly make some changes and some choices, is on the value of our time versus what's important to us. So this comes from a book called First Things First by Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'll put myself across here like, where's Wally? And you can see on here, we've got track your time. And we've got urgent and important, non-urgent and important, urgent but not important, and not urgent and not important. Now, this quadrant has helped me over the years to start to decide what's important for me and what isn't important to me, because it's less about sort of being busy and getting more done and being more efficient, but first of all coming to the place of what the heck is actually important to us in the first place, that we're going to be using our time and our effort and our energy on. So if you're starting a business, you're going to be looking at the importance of your message. You're going to be looking at the importance of who your customers are. You're going to be looking at the importance of getting the service right, etc., and the delivery right. And when you are established, you're going to be looking at how you market yourself even more effectively. There is an importance, and that allows us to decide how to change what we're doing with our time. But here's where we all get stuck, all of us, right? So we end up getting stuck a lot here, quite a bit here sometimes, and very less here. So urgent and important. Let's have a look at what urgent and important is. Something is needed for tomorrow. There's a bill to be paid, and suddenly what you're going to go shopping, and instead you have to pay the bill, or the taxes are due tomorrow, or suddenly you have to go and pick your kid up from school because they've fallen over and grazed their knee, or they've been whatever it is that's going on, or jabbed by the COVID app or something. It becomes, whether you like it or not, whether you had any other plans, it's urgent and important today. sometimes people in their procrastination leave things till the last minute because they're so unclear everywhere else that finally their clarity comes through at the last minute in urgent and important, and they start throwing away all the other voices, all the other thoughts, and they simply get down to what is actually important to them in what they're doing at the end of the day. So that urgent and important, for some people that they get themselves into such a state of overthinking and confusion, actually brings an enormous amount of clarity. However, it also brings an enormous amount of stress, because we're in fight or flight. It's that ability where we're in survival. We have to get it done today or else. It brings a clarity. It can bring a stress at the same time. And there are some things that become urgent and important, but we don't want to be hanging out here 24/7 in our business and in our life, or choosing to do everything last minute just because we get the payoff of finally feeling focused, clear, and have some clarity. This is where we end up hanging out if we're stuck on people pleasing, watching everybody else's emails come through, or getting very distracted with other things like the phone rings, etc., because it's urgent, but it's not important to you. So it's urgent to somebody else, but it's actually not important to you. So in other words, those phone calls, that text through, that ping, that all the notifications that are on, somebody's urgent is actually trying to impede on what's important to you, but it's actually not important to you. And this is the place where the distraction happens, where we don't know what we're doing here, or we're really kind of like, if we're not, waiting for the next crisis to happen, we're hanging out here. We're hanging out here. We're looking at everybody else's emails in our inbox, first of all, before, other than this one, of course, watch this one. And then, of course, we're not getting the work done. So you can kind of see, if you put on something like track your time for the day, like put Toggle on, like virtual assistants do when they're doing with their clients, and they track how long they're spending on each bit. Or if you've ever been to a lawyer, your lawyer is tracking every phone call, every letter, every minute that they're spending with you. They're tracking that as a professional service, and they're charging you for that. Okay, so the less clear we are, the more we're going to pay for it, basically. But this is the bit that we end up hanging out with when we're really pulled by everybody else's. So here's where you are if you're in FOMO. Here's where you are if you're in fear of missing out, if you're watching everybody else's stuff, if you're trying to decide that if you feel not good enough and you feel that everybody else's stuff is more important than you, this is where you're going to be hanging out. Everybody else is urgent and it's not important to you right now. So, and this is where this is where you'll end up getting suckered into sales in the wrong time. If you are not sure what's important to you, you're going to everybody's sales page, everybody's discount, everybody's stuff is going to become urgent, and it's not even important to you right now. So knowing what's important to you is really vital, so you can make some choices. There are times then when you can actually make the choice to save up and have the early bird discount for something that you really want to do, rather than end up paying extra for the payment plan or whatever it is. There's so many ways that we can use this for us, not against us. But if we're not careful, then we also end up in non-urgent, not important. Okay, this is where it's like scrolling, or just going deeper into something that you need to go into. It's not urgent for you to be dealing with it, and it's also not important to your thing. This could be trying to over deliver, add more in. Could be scrolling through Facebook. It could be just all of those things. It's non-urgent. TV watching, Netflix box set, I've got to have I've got to just sit and vegetate with the whole series. It's not important and it's not urgent. This is the ultimate time waster. This is where we're in utter denial as to how our life is actually going and shaping up, and whether we're truly living the life that we actually want to live. That's where if we're underneath the fold here, we're really not in charge of our own life at all. We're not in charge of our time. We're not in charge of how we're using it. We're not even seeing that we're putting things off, and we're not even seeing the value of that. We're just stuck under the fold. We're a victim to everybody else's desires, and we're a victim to everybody else's kind of agenda. We need to be living above the fold. However, there are times when we're going to have something urgent and important. But here's the bit where self-discipline, self-management, and real maturity live. And this is something for us all to move towards bit by bit by bit. It's not a one-stop shop. It's not just a place that we're only ever going to be. I think this is the place to attain to. This is where it's non-urgent but important. This is where, if you haven't had a holiday for 5 years, this is where learning how to save up for that holiday so you can have it. It's non-urgent right now, but it's so important to you. This is where self-care lives. It's not urgent sometimes, unless it really becomes urgent, like we've got a health crisis, to actually start eating properly or exercise or sleep. I hold my hand up. I'm not perfect at this, but we start to realize that actually, if we're not paying attention to this, we'll find ourselves here. Okay. And where it becomes urgent and important. And it's a body cry, it's a heart cry, it's a mind cry to what we need to be paying attention to. It's also the place where you can start to build your business. It's what I call the long game. It's the difference between the short game and the long game. Sometimes there's urgent and important. We've got to bring money in the door. We've got to pay bills, etc. There's a short-term thing. And there's also the ability, if we get stuck here, we'll never build our business for the long game, or what we're, whatever it is that you're doing, or you'll never sort of put the right training in place so that you can go and speak on that platform when you get the opportunity, or you'll never have the kind of technique that, if it's a singing, you'll never have the kind of technique that actually be able to handle the pressure of a performance or an audition. So this to me is where we're hanging out in the short game and the long game. So I just want you to look at those. In which areas of your life or your work are you the victim of everybody else's urgent and it's not really important to you? Whereabouts are you just checking out the building because you've just worked too hard, or you haven't been up here with some self-care and suddenly we've just dropped down under the fold? It's kind of like, now I've just got to check. I just mentally am checking out. Okay, but it's non-urgent, it's not important to you. We're living in denial of how much time we've got on the face of this planet. And if there's one thing the pandemic has taught us, is that you just don't always know how long you've got. And that's not something to be pushed away from. That is something to be embraced. Our mortality is actually something to be embraced, honored and respected, that in this world, in this life, you have and I have a finite amount of time, and we don't know how long that is. So what's important to you at your age and your stage? What's important to your business? If you've started a business or you're transitioning and you want to, what's important at that stage of your business? Do not focus on funnels and systems that are for a bigger business if you are at the stage where you don't know how to make a sale yet. Don't focus on the wrong thing at the right time. Shut out the noise and start to look at what is the short game and what is the long game, and how are you using your time so that you can actually meet with release rather than resistance this stage and age of your life and your business, or your desires, or your learning, whichever that is for you. Whatever that learning is, you've got to meet it. And you can only meet time. You can only meet time if you know what's important to you personally and what's important to the thing that you're doing in order to play this above fold game of the long game, so that you actually are having the things that are important to you. And we're not suddenly realizing that we haven't got enough money or time has run out in order to forgive that person, book that holiday, build that business. There's always this management going on, and it's a daily awareness of you coming to a level of what is really truly important to you. And from that place, you can start to make decisions to let go of some things Might be just taking Facebook off your phone. I did that. It's made a big difference. I feel so much more present. Or unsubscribing from certain emails. Please not this one. Unless you really want to. And where are we ending up? Lastminute.com, just because it brings us into focus rather than, and it's having such a level of cost to our nervous system and our burnout, because we're not hanging out in what's truly important. And it might not be urgent because it's the longer game, and making those small changes, daily changes, to just bring us into a place of maturity and a place of being able to see those areas of our life and work really come to fruition. It's like fruit on a tree. They're only going to ripen through the season if it's got the right conditions for that to ripen. You and I are in charge of those conditions. And when I think about that, it's a sobering thought, but it's also a hopeful thought that those conditions, I can change some of them. And even some of the things I can't change, then I can work around certain things and accept certain things and move on and work around them. I don't have to be fighting everything, and I don't have to be backing off from everything. I don't have to be doing everything last minute, and I don't have to be, pushing myself to burn the candle at both ends, and neither do I have to be having that many duvet days because I just don't know how to move forward. I don't know what it is for you, but you and I have this one precious life, and we don't know how long it's going to last. And certain things take longer than we realize, and other things can be done a lot quicker than we realize, but only if you know what's important to you and you start tracking your time in a way that allows you to see the fruit of all of that labor. So I'd love to know your thoughts today on this session as a very different look at time and energy. Take care.